Hi, welcome to Garage Geek, and this is Friday Night Chats. It's gotten cold in LA, so I've got my winter blankets out in my garage, keeping cozy with my dogs. Now, today was nice because it's Veterans Day, and I tried to take advantage of a Veterans Day sale. I was at the mall, and I went to Dunkin' Donuts. And I was like, hey, do you honor the Veterans Day freebies? And they're like, no. But everywhere Dunkin' Donuts does, but I guess not at the mall. So I had to pay full price for my coffee and donuts. We were there quite early. And that's because the first thing that we did when I got up was I went to the dentist, made an appointment for 9 a.m. Now, I have a real problem with the dentist because every time I get a dentist, it seems like I have to change. The first time I had a dentist here after having health insurance, not having health insurance for a long time, I finally got it. And so I went to the dentist and they immediately charged me that, like, they wanted to do so many surgeries and they wanted me to sign it, and they put a huge pressure on me. And it was the day that I went in, like they said, oh, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this, and we want you to sign this, and we're going to get started. And I was like overwhelmed, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And I finally said, you know what? I need time to think about this. And that's what they didn't want. And so when I left the dentist office, I looked them up online and they had all these horrible reviews. And I called my district and I was like, why would you suggest that one of your members use this dental service? And they had no answer for me. It seems like they didn't even care. It's just a list. And so I was quite disheartened by the whole thing. It was pretty shocking, right? Because I almost signed off to do thousands of dollars worth of work that wasn't covered by insurance. I'm glad I recovered my wits, and I was like, ooh. So then it took me months to change my dentist's office because that's just the way the system is. So then I changed it, and I had an appointment, and I did have a cavity. It was in my back tooth, and I needed root canal. So I set that up. I did it. I got the root canal, and then I had to go to a specialist for that. And then when my tooth around the root canal started to break, it started to crumble. And so I made an appointment at the dentist. It took me, like a month and a half to get an appointment. So I finally go in, and they're like, oh, this office doesn't even cover your insurance anymore. They had changed hands. And I was like, what? And so then I had to go ahead and find another dentist. And so because I was disheartened by that experience, I waited months and months. And so finally, I made an appointment here, and they're going to pull the tooth. It's free. So I'm going to do that in December. But they want to charge me $700 for they want to put like a synthetic bone to fill the hole. And they're like, oh, insurance doesn't cover that because they consider it cosmetic. I'm like, how is having a hole in your mouth cosmetic? I mean, that sounds like something necessary to take care of. No, it's cosmetic. I'm like, what? So anyways, right around Christmas, I have to come up with $700. And then also, they said, my mouth looks really great. However, there's a couple of teeth where they have a number system 1 through 10, and 1 through 3 is fine. And they said there's a couple places in your mouth where the gums are a little bit too receded from the tooth. And they said you're in the 5 zone, but just in a couple of places. So we recommend that you take some medicine that strengthens the ligaments there and brings it back toward the tooth. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, oh, but it's $400. I'm like, but it's for the health of my mouth and to prevent future problems. Why isn't that covered by insurance? It's crazy. I was like, oh, so right now you basically want me to spend over $1,000. And it's like really disheartening because just yesterday, coincidentally, I watched Jon Stewart and he was talking about taxation and what it gets us in the United States. And they were comparing what other countries pay, and they pay like 30 to 40% of their wages, but everything is taken care of, and everybody, they are actually happy that they pay the taxes. Now, I don't know if that's a gross simplification, but it's pretty strange that I have insurance, but it doesn't cover my needs. And it's just a strange system that we have in the United States. So, okay, whatever. I don't know if I should complain about that. It's just some observations about the healthcare system in the United States. So, I'm going to move on with that, or from that. So, after that, my husband and I, he went with me to the appointment just in case they pulled the tooth and he needed to drive home. So it was right next to the Glendale Galleria. So we like going shopping there. So we ended up buying some Funko Pops, and I have the, oh, where's the bag? Ew, you're going to have to see me in the close-up. Hold on. Hi, sorry, everybody. So we got some Funko Pops. Most of them were for him, because I told him, look, I'm trying to save money, but I'll buy you some for Christmas if you want them. So he bought this one. He likes the Disney villains, so he got Cruella de Vil. There are more of the villains on the back. That's the set. I told him, man, if it were me, I would have bought this one, but he wanted this one. He wanted Cruella de Vil. And then he wanted this comic. Even though I have it already, he has Batman and Wonder Woman, and he wanted the set. So I got him that. And oh, this is, what do you call it? Awkward. I bought this one for me because I have a Spider-Man set, and I like that. So everybody, my nails are really long. I got to cut them. I will this weekend. I also got a Dr. Octopus. I'm a huge fan of the Sinister Six. So I got that one. And then this set is from the TV program, of the cartoon. Yeah, so there's another one. So I got him 2 sodas. So he picked them. He wanted Kong. We haven't opened it yet. And Yogi Bear. So I got those 2 sodas. And he also has a little collection of these. This is Jack Skellington, and I think it's black light. I don't think it glows in the dark. It's black light. And so that's what we got for Funko Pops. Believe it or not, that was expensive. So we went to the mall and we kind of splurged. But we haven't gone in a long time. As we also bought some candles. He wanted some candles from Anthropology. If any of you have never smelled the volcano candles, those things are amazing. So my husband's hooked on those, so I always have to buy him one. So I pretty much get him one every Christmas. And we also bought some clothes, which we don't need. Okay, so let me get rid of that. So those were the Funko Pops that we bought. And tell me, which one is your favorite in the comments below, please. And that brings us, and the weather here was very rainy at the beginning of the week, which was so needed. It was awesome. And like I said, it's gotten cold, so we're gearing up for winter here. Although winter here is nothing like winter in other places, so we don't have anything to complain about. All right, so I'm going to talk about some movies that I watched this week. Now, I'm going to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movies and a show. And I'm pretty sure I watched another one, but it was last Friday night. I know we watched a movie, but we couldn't remember it. We were like racking our brains. So there's a 7th movie that we just couldn't remember the movie we watched. It was so weird. So I'm going to start with The Good Neighbor. So The Good Neighbor is a new movie on Hulu, and it was about basically a neighbor that you can't trust. And it was actually a pretty good movie. I mean, it's nothing new, but if you just want to put on kind of like a murder mystery, where there's someone that you trust who turns out to be evil, and then you don't trust them, and it gets all complicated. it was enjoyable, right? I'm not going to say it's stellar, okay? It's just a fun watch. So, and it also it involves foreigners, like when you're in a foreign country and you're dealing with the laws of that country, and so that it was nice. And then um Jonathan Rhys Meyers, he actually did a really really good job in this role. He was very creepy. So I enjoyed it, right? I mean, nothing fantastic, mind you. I'm just like, if you want some like a fun movie, popcorn movie that you're gonna enjoy, watch it. I think it's on Hulu. So the next movie we watched was Solace, and then my husband got mad and he went right to sleep because he was like, because I picked it, and I don't know, he was in a mood and he like did not want to watch the movie I picked that night. So, anyways, this is, as you can see, Anthony Hopkins and Colin Farrell, and it had a really interesting premise. I don't want to give a lot away, so I'm going to try not to, but there's a couple really, really good ideas, and one of the ideas involves a spoiler, so I'm not sure whether I should tell you. But basically, the characters in this movie are really damaged. They're damaged emotionally. And the Anthony Hopkins character has psychic abilities. He could see the future of people, but he can also, I believe, see the past. And so he kind of gets like a full frame view of you. Anyways, a lot of it doesn't make sense. So, because for example, he's looking at murder victims, and it's weird because when he touches the murder victim, he sees it like 3D, and that doesn't make sense to me. Wouldn't he see it through the eyes of the victim? So that kind of idea, it doesn't make sense to me. It actually comes up a bunch in movies. And I'm going to say that this movie is very similar in concept to a couple of episodes from the X-Files, right? Because basically he's going to meet his match. He's going to come into contact with another person with psychic abilities whose abilities are better than his. And so he's the killer and he's way ahead of the police because he knows what this guy is seeing and he's using that. And so for the first half of the movie, they're trying to figure out, like, how is this guy always ahead of us when we have a psychic on our team? Now that it's a spoiler, but that's not really a spoiler because if you watch the trailer, they give all that away. Okay. Sorry about that. Now, this is a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear a spoiler for this movie, please jump ahead. So one of the name of the movie is Solace, and the reason that this guy is killing people is because he can see their futures, and the police start finding out that he's killing people who have terminal illnesses. And so this guy is acting like the angel of death because when he sees their suffering in his visions, he can't stand it and he wants to alleviate their suffering. And it's a really interesting idea. I don't think the movie does it justice, but the whole idea is really, really interesting. And one problem I have with the movie, this is a super spoiler, so skip if you don't want to know the ending of this. So he is setting up him to follow in his footsteps. He's like training him. But the age doesn't make sense. Wouldn't it make more sense if this was the older one training the younger one to follow in his footsteps? Because he sacrifices himself so that he can carry on his work, but he's so much older. And to me, that didn't really make sense. It would have made so much more sense if they had flipped the roles. But this was a meteor role in the movie. And, I mean, they gave it to Anthony Hopkins. I mean, they're both really great actors, but come on. There's no beating Anthony Hopkins. He's amazing. Sorry, Colin. I think you're a great actor, Colin, but Anthony Hopkins. Okay, so now I'm going to get on to some. We watched a few more Mexican movies this week. and Mexican horror movies. Some of them might be Spanish. Sorry, that might be the case. So the first one was Misterios de Ultratumba, and these are B movies from the like late 50s, 60s. And I found out when I was doing the research that it actually has an English title. It's called The Black Pit of Dr. M. So this movie is really, really interesting. So this doctor, when this, I'm going to show you this guy's face. I actually think he's really handsome. So he's actually going to be in two movies that I'm going to discuss tonight. And then he was also in a movie that I reviewed before. So this doctor and another doctor made a pact that whoever dies first, the other one is going to definitely come back and let them know what it's like in the afterlife. And the other doctor does come back, but he sees how evil this one is, and he starts trying to protect a woman who turns out to be his daughter. And I mean, a lot of things happen in this movie. For example, the doctor is in charge of an insane asylum, and this woman, she was actually really good. She plays a large role in the movie into what happens. And then, like, here's another scene in the movie. I mean, the cinematography and the black and white is so gorgeous in these old movies. And sorry, this picture is very blurry, but this is another actor that's appeared in like 2 or 3 of these movies. And you can see he gets scarred, and he plays a big role in this movie. And it's a fun movie. So I don't know if I like really recommend it. It was just it was a fun B movie, B horror movie. But the next one is called The Baron of Terror. This thing was hysterical. So I'm going to highly recommend this one. This movie, I mean, first of all, look at the monster. Look at the tongue. Look at the fingers. And there was I found out when I did the research, the English title is called Brainiac. Has nothing to do with the movie. Okay, so the whole premise behind this movie made absolutely no sense. So there is basically a warlock. He was burnt. He was condemned by like 6 people of the Spanish Inquisition, and he was burned at the stake. But as he's being burnt at the stake, he curses all the inquisitors, and he says, in 300 years, I'm going to come back and I'm going to kill all your ancestors. I'm going to make them suffer. I mean, your descendants. And then a comet comes by. I think it's Halley's Comet. And he like gets sucked up into the comet. It made no sense whatsoever. And so then, of course, we jump 300 years and he's back. And he's this freaky creature. It made no sense. So first of all, did I get a picture of him? That's him. Okay, so it's that actor again. And look, he keeps brains in this cupboard. And he goes and it's like pudding. He goes and gets brains. So he comes back and he seduces women. And I was like, hey, come and seduce me. He was so cute. But anyways, then he would turn into this creature with this tongue that would come out, and it would like poke holes in the back of your neck and I guess suck out the brains. But then how did the brains get in the jar? Like, I didn't understand, like, if his tongue is sucking out the brains, how does he get to keep them in that chalice? It made no sense. So anyways, he's going around killing people left and right. They're all the descendants of them. Here's his tongue going into the back of this guy. Oh, and his mask vibrated. Whenever he would change, his mask would vibrate in and out. And the little fingers on the thing were hysterical. This is the best B-movie makeup ever. Look, that tongue coming out was so repulsive and disgusting. Oh, and there, one more time. Let's look at him eating those brains. I'm like, oh, cute. Okay, this is an artist rendition of what this monster would look like, right? With color and everything. Okay, you should watch this movie just for laughs. It's one of those B movie treasures. Brainiac, or what was it called? Um, El Barón de Terror. Wait, let me just show you the name. El Barón de Terror. So, the next movie is El Grito de la Muerte. Now, I've learned my lesson. Gaston Santos has been in almost all of these movies, but if he's the lead, just stay away from the movie. So this is the second movie that I've seen with him. So basically, he's a cowboy, and he's very much like the Lone Ranger. And in fact, if you read that, it says, I'm reading this backward, Y el caballo rayo de plata. So his horse is basically called Silver. I mean, that's the Lone Ranger's horse. So this movie, there was I don't know if you remember, a couple weeks ago, I reviewed a movie where there was a play going on, and then like at the beginning it was so good, and then this guy comes along with his sidekick and it turns into a comedy, and it's basically what happened here. So there's a house and it seems to be haunted, and there's gold involved, and this movie basically turned into an extended episode of Scooby-Doo. So this was like one of the villains in the movie. She was hiding in the walls. Supposedly she was the dead aunt, and she was hiding in the walls, and she would come out and strangle people. um Now, if any of you have seen Misery, Kathy Bates in the movie Misery by Stephen King, do you know how she like breaks his legs and makes him write things over if she doesn't like the ending, if she feels it's a cheat? The whole ending of this movie, like once it's solved, it feels like such a cheat and such a Scooby-Doo type of ending. I was like, I need Kathy Bates to come in and like um hobble these writers and make them write a better ending, because it was just such a disappointment. So if you see Gaston Santos as the lead, stay away. I'm still gonna watch the movies though. I don't care. They're fun. And the final movie I'm gonna talk about is Pig, starring Nicolas Cage. Okay, so my husband and I was like, oh, let's take a break from older movies, pick a movie. So I was just going through looking. I was like, oh, let's look at what's this Pig by Nicolas Cage. So I quickly looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes, and they had really good reviews. I'm like, wow. The last thing I had seen with Nicolas Cage was Mandy. I think, was that the horror movie Mandy? And that was so weird. Very good, but weird. Okay, and so I thought, Pig, look at that cover. It's going to be some type of horror movie. I don't read what it's about. I just kind of, look at the numbers and like, okay, let's watch it. So this is a movie about like he's a truffle farmer, and he lives in the woods all by himself with his pig. And that's the beginning of the movie. This movie is so good. So first of all, it's not a horror movie. It's online people compared it to John Wick, as if it were a real John Wick. Like, John Wick is so ultra violent and over to the top, and that's why people like it. It's fun. But this is a revenge story about a stolen animal that is very realistic. And his performance in this movie is just so good. And the whole movie turns out to be about loss and maybe forgiveness about loss. And everything that he goes through, the people that he meet, he touches in ways. I don't want to give a lot away, right? I don't want to tell you like his job and then what he does and then how he affects people, but it's really a very touching movie, and I highly, highly recommend this movie. This one, I believe, where was it? Was it on Hulu? It might be on Amazon Prime. I can't remember. Such a good movie. Just don't look at the reviews. Just go ahead and watch it. Take my recommendation and watch it. And if you don't like it, I'd be very interested to know why in the comments. And then the ending has one of these art house endings, and I'm not going to tell you why, but it also makes you think and try to, think about some of the things that happened in the movie and try to piece some things together. So anyways, Pig. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about is I started watching the show 5 Days at Memorial, and I watched 3 of the 5 or 6 episodes. And this is based on real events that happened at a hospital and during Hurricane Katrina and the aftermath. And I heard about this on NPR just casually. I turned it on when I was, in the bathroom. That's the only time I listen to NPR, when I'm going to shower or something. And it was in the middle of a review for this show, and it sounded fascinating. So basically, Hurricane Katrina came in, and they lost power at a hospital, and they just averted a really, really bad disaster. Okay. So they're in the hospital for 5 days, and they don't realize it, but the real disaster is going to come when the levees break and water starts coming in, and they are cut off. Trucks can't get in and out. And I'm just getting to the part in the movie where, basically all the doctors start losing patients, and there's nothing they can do about it. They can't get these people out. There's no power for life support. And it's just like this cascading tragedy. And so far, I mean, there's a lot of really good actors in this show. And I'm about halfway through, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And I'm sure that the last half is going to be equally as good or probably better. So that's on Apple TV. So I recommend that. But anyways, like I said, I'm only halfway through. Okay, let me take a sip of my coffee. I actually had a little bit of a cough on Thursday. I didn't stay for my after-school tutoring. I wasn't feeling well, so I just left. So last night and today, I've been drinking a lot of tea. Fortunately, this is coffee, but I'm going to have tea later. Okay, let me talk now about some of the books that I read. So I listened to Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. Now, this is, again, one of the Booker Prize. This is a shortlisted one. Now, this is actually the shortest book that is shortlisted, right? It's actually only 2 hours long, right? And so it took me an hour because I listened to it at double speed. This is very much a Christmas story. And it was so well written. So a man who is not well off, and he is very reliant on the people in his town for jobs, right? So he sees something at a convent that really shakes his foundations, and it makes him remember his upbringing and the people who helped him in his life. And he turns away, and you can just feel it. Like the way it's described, you could just feel that what he did is eating away at him. He goes on with his life, and he keeps going. And I won't tell you the ending, right? But this book is so well written, and it's got that sense of dread and foreboding in a way, not foreboding, more like guilt, turning away from people who need you, people who are helpless because other people are in power, and they, for example, they pay your bills, or they give you the jobs to help you feed your family. It was such a good book, and it's so short that I really recommended this book to anybody who might be interested in this. The next one that I read, which was Glory by No Violet Bulawayo, or Bulawayo. I'm not sure if that's Bulawayo. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. So this book is 16 hours long. And so I only have gotten to 6.5 of the 16 hours, so I'm about 40%. Now, this isn't the kind of book that I normally like this. Her writing is amazing. There's a lot of dialogue, very dialogue heavy, and it's the comparisons with Animal Farm are going to be there. So this is about the politics of Zimbabwe. Now, I actually lived a year in Malawi, and I heard some horror stories. And I actually went to Zimbabwe on a vacation, and I went to a couple museums that they had there about the government. And so I have a little bit, very limited, connection with the material of this book. Obviously, there's so much there, right? And like I said, this isn't the kind of writing about politics that I'm drawn to. But this is very, very well written. It's very well done. And I'm listening to the audiobook, and the person who does the audio on the audiobook does so many amazing voices. She has like a different voice for every character, and they're all different animals. So it's very long, and I'm only 40% into it. And I'm definitely going to finish it. I might have to return it before I'm done, but I'll get it back and I will finish it. I do recommend it, especially if you're into politics, and if any of it that I've, described so far is interesting to you, but it is a long book, very long. All right. Sorry, this one is going over. I read also The New Frontier. Now, I've had this on my shelf for a while. I actually started it before. And I watched a video recently again praising it. So I was like, you know what? I got to just sit down and read it. So I did. I sat down and I read it. And I'm going to say that, because so many people have praised this and they're always gushing when they talk about it. For me, it was just okay. And I'm wondering if it's because, when something is hyped and hyped and hyped, and I mean, how does it live up to that? It probably can't. Was this bad? Absolutely not. Now, what is this about? This is about a reimagining of the history of the DC universe. And so it's told in kind of chronological order, starting with a certain time period. The old guard is leaving, the old heroes, and the new guard is coming in. And it's their story about how they come together. And the artwork in this by Darwin Cook is praised. And for me, it's very cartoony. But once you get used to it, you absolutely love it. It fits. There's no problem with it. Here's Superman and Wonder Woman meeting. The artwork is great. It's not my type. Like, I prefer a little bit more realistic. But hey, it's good. It's really, really good. Now, it did in parts remind me of Watchmen, kind of doing that, and also Marvels from Marvel, where they retell the history of the Marvel Universe. Now, what is interesting in the back, which I haven't finished yet, there are notes, and it goes each page, and where Darwin Cook got the inspiration from the original comics. And so he did weave all this history from actual DC comics, and he tried to keep to the story of what's going on. And that I'm definitely going to finish that, but that is really fascinating. And so I definitely have a huge appreciation for this, the art, the storytelling. I'm just not going to say like, hey, this blew me away. But it is very, very good. So would I recommend it? Absolutely. I'm just, it's something that needs to be read. I think it's really, really interesting, very, very well put together, very well researched. But with all the hype behind it, I don't know if it actually lives up to that. That might be a very unpopular viewpoint for this book. I listened to Brian and Roger Eno, their new albums, The Turning Year and Forever and Ever No More. And I did a review on those. They're both beautiful albums. I also listened to Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. That was another VC recommends. I had lukewarm. Like, I liked a lot of it, but I didn't hate, but I just thought the other parts were okay. I listened to Cathedral's album, Forest of Equilibrium, and I ended up really, really liking that. And I want to end, like, this video is already long. okay? But I want to end by one, coughing. I need to get that out of the way. Number two, I'm going to take a, sorry, I'm moving my camera. I'm going to take another drink of my coffee. Number three, I'm going to talk about the first part of a video. Now, I've been watching some videos that Gus69 has been recommending to me. And so I'm going to go over another video. I'm not going to go in depth, but I'm going to talk about what I saw. So, I mean, it's already 35 minutes, and I'm totally going to understand if you don't want to listen to this, but I'm still going to talk about this. So, the movie is a 2-hour movie, and it's called the Zeitgeist trilogy, and it's in 3 parts. So, I'm only going to talk about part 1 today. I'll talk about maybe part 2 and 3 next video, or maybe part 2 and then part 3. So, part 1 is called The Greatest Story Ever Told, and it's all about the lies of religion. Now, I'm an atheist, and so this is preaching to the choir, but there were so many details in this that were really fascinating for me. Now, the very beginning of it starts with an animation of evolution, and then it goes right into all these images of war. So basically what it's equating, it's like the history of man, once we got, to a certain point, it's all been about war. But what's interesting is the images of war are almost all these images that, we've seen before of the horrors of war that are on a personal level. And all the images are from different wars, and it just makes you understand the futility and the stupidity of all these wars that we have, because all it does is end up just showing how ugly we are as humans and how hurtful it is to people. So then, it really starts talking about the Bible, but what it does is it starts talking about the Bible as myth and how all the stories in the Bible came from other places. They're not original. And all they are myths transformed. So, for example, there's a similarity of sun god in many religions. For example, Horus from Egyptian mythology he was born on the 25th of December of a virgin. There was a star in the east. He was adored by 3 kings, and he had 12 disciples. He performed miracles. He was known as the Lamb of God in the light. He was betrayed, crucified. He was dead for 3 days, and he was resurrected. And then the video goes on to show how many other religions have these similarities with the idea of what they called the solar Messiah, which is the most recent incarnation of that is Jesus Christ. And I've known about many of these similarities. For example, there's the similarity of Noah, the flood, and that's in so many other religions. But this and all the lists, it's just pretty amazing when you think about it, right? All the lies, and it's not, I don't mean to say lies. It's just basically these stories that are told over and over again. But then governments and ruling bodies take on these myths to control the populace. And that was the point that the video was trying to make, right? It's how people manipulate these stories or these myths in order to control their populace and to get them to do what they want, to keep them in line. It's very well done. I'm definitely looking forward to the other 2 parts of that. And there was one more point that I wanted to make, but it's escaping me right now. Let me think for a second. I'm probably going to kick myself after I turn off the video. But anyways, this is one of my longer videos. I'm already at 39 and a half minutes. But again, I want to thank Guz69 for recommending that video. I will go over the next part in the next video. And if you stayed around this long to listen to what I've done this week, thank you so much. Please, your comments are always welcome. Please let me know what you're doing or what you've done this week in the comments. I would love to read about what you think and what you've done, because I will, of course, comment on that. And again, I thank you for your support, and I hope to see you again next week.